Good morning, Professor Hans. Thank you for granting us the opportunity for the interview here, sir, on the southwest tower of the second enclosure of the Angkor Wat temple, sir. Professor Hans, you have been working on the restoration of the bas-relief, around the Angkor Park and especially inside the Angkor Wat temple, sir. As you mentioned, since 1995. So it has been nearly 30 years now, sir. Especially the bas-relief, that is extruding from the wall, the thing that people see all the time, the thing that the people admire all the time, sir. Sir, because of, the nature of restoration in Angkor Park, as you mentioned, most restoration, they focus on the stability of the monument, sir. But for you, sir, the German team, you focus on the aesthetic stability of the monument, sir. So my first question is that, why do you choose to restore the aesthetic in this case, sir?
Yeah, actually, when I came first time here, I recognized that many of the bas-reliefs of the wonderful apsaras on the entrance doors are in a very precarious state of preservation.
Yes, sir.
And just one word of the naming. You talk about restoration. We would call it conservation. Yeah? We separate conservation, restoration, reconstruction, anastylosis. So these are different steps.
Yes, sir.
Restoration or conservation is the technique with minimum intervention on the object to keep what we can see, but to stabilize what we can see.
Yes, sir.
And actually, I'm a geologist and a conservation scientist.
Yes, sir.
I was teaching at our university conservation of stone, of stucco, of what we call mineral porous materials.
Yes, sir.
Yeah? So this is our profession, this is our specialization, that we focus on decorations, not so much on the stability. For stability, architects, engineers are responsible. But we, conservation scientists, we feel responsible for the decoration of the monuments.
Yes, sir, but normally, before we can start the aesthetic, let's say, restoration, we need to stabilize the entire structure first.
Yes.
Is that correct? And then aesthetic conservation can come later. Is that what you mean, sir?
More or less, yeah.
More or
but
less, yeah.
I think it has to go parallel, yeah. Because I will show you some picture, the state of preservation of some of the bas-reliefs, not in the galleries. They are quite well protected. Nevertheless, we have to conserve there as well and monitor and maintain. But on the exposed, weather-exposed areas, some are very, very precarious. And if we wait until the stability is reached, and then we start, maybe a lot of the decoration is lost. I think this is an interdisciplinary, we need an interdisciplinary approach that all different professions
Yes, sir.
who are responsible for the care of monuments work together. And of course, if there's work where something has to be dismantled,
Yes,
we
sir.
cannot do the conservation,
Yes,
but
sir.
we can do the conservation before it is, or emergency conservation before it's dismantled, and then they can dismantle, and after the reassembling, we can do the full conservation.
So it wouldn't affect the aesthetic of the conserved bas-relief, sir. It's okay when we, disassemble the structure.
It should not. It should not affect the bas-reliefs, of course.
Yes,
yeah.
sir.
So, of course, all intervention should not damage the object, even in small areas. Yeah.
Yes, sir. And sir, because right now we are standing on the top of one of the towers at Angkor, and each tower has a lot of let's say shape carved to them, sir. So And the same thing applies to other temples in Angkor. So basically, there are so many bas-reliefs there. So your team, let's say with limited human resource, of course, I mean, you cannot deploy everyone to preserve the bas-relief. So how do you prioritize, where to restore first and where to restore last? Let's say practicality.
Actually, maybe to explain this, it's better. I go back a little bit how we developed the project. Yeah. Of course, when I came first, I saw at Angkor Wat the badly damaged bas-reliefs and mainly the apsaras. Because these apsaras could be reached from the floor and directly investigated. The higher up the pediments, etc. You need magnification glass or drones nowadays or something to get information about the state of preservation. Nevertheless, of course, also the first view that also many of the bas-reliefs on the pediments are in a bad condition. So at that time I did a survey in the Angkor Park on all temples which have been accessible. And what is clear, we came back to Angkor Wat, because there's a difference between the mountain temples like Angkor Wat or Takeo and the temples in the forest, like Taprom, Preah Khan, etc. There we don't have these badly damaged bas-reliefs on the walls. Because there we have a more or less constant climate which protects. And this goes back to the question, what is happening on the mountain temples? They are totally exposed to the weather. A lot of rain, then sun, drying, and later on, after construction, the beds started to settle in the temple. Animals were on the temple, and in the last phase also would say not well adapted restoration interventions were made, which all brought in physical effects on the stone. We are geologists, we are so-called the stone doctors because we know best about the stone, and you told me before, you cannot remember all the names. Of course, there's a huge variety, and this is science of geoscience. But here in Angkor, of course, we only have few different stone materials. This is the one from Angkor Wat, which is used for many buildings. Then we have Bantasrey, which is sandstone as well.
A very pink one, sir.
But a very stable one due to its composition. The composition is different from the sandstone here in Angkor Wat. That's why it's much better preserved. It's not the color, it's the composition itself. And then we have, for example, one type of stone which is only used for the towers on Takeo, which is another type. And then we have different qualities in these different varieties in these groups. So in Kokere, the material is somehow different. It's similar like this one, but nevertheless different. That's why we have to investigate the composition, which is a job of geologists. I talked to you, the main tool is first the polarizing microscopy. And in the next step, we can also use the scanning electron microscope. I will show you a picture. And the other point is we have to investigate all physical and mechanical parameters of the sandstones. And there we can see they differ quite a lot.
What do you mean by mechanical parameters of the stone?
Strengths of the stone, So we measure compressive strengths, tensile strengths. We measure so-called elasticity modulus, which is a very significant value for the strength of stones.
Yes, sir. If I may recap, so the first one that you might do is first to reach out to the easier part of the temple first. Second is to study the composition.
To the accessible part of the temple.
And then study the composition. And then after that, we study the mechanical stress of
the physical. For example, very important is water absorption. So when it's raining, the stone absorbs water by itself. And When it's drying, the water goes out again. So this is a very important part. Another part which is different between the sandstone from Bantusrey or Takeo top, this sandstone is when the water is going in, it's expanding.
Yes, sir.
And when it's drying, it's shrinking.
Yes, sir.
And this is an extremely important factor for the weathering of this Angkor Wat sandstone.
Yes,
yeah,
sir.
can briefly explain. And there are other parameters like water vapor diffusion, etc., which we have to know, because also these parameters are important to know for the conservation.
Yes,
For the conservation materials, they have to be adapted to these parameters of the stone. Yeah. In former times, for example, cement was used for the restoration. Cement is not adapted to the sandstone. Cement is much too strong. It doesn't take up water, while the sandstone takes up water and is quite soft. So they fight each other.
And their thermal expansion is also stronger, sir.
The thermal expansion is different, but for this sandstone and Angkor Wat and for the what we call deterioration pattern, for the damage, the water absorption and the expansion of the stone, the hydric, we call it hydric expansion by water is very important. And then finally, I was talking already about, after some time, beds settle, and the beds droplets, the urine, and etc.
Oh, they create salt.
They create salts,
yes, sir.
Damaging salt. And with the water in the temple, it's moved into the walls and then is causing damages outside. But the main factor for these serious damages here, we call this scale formation, scaling.
Yes. Can you show me if there's a scaling?
It's not possible here, but I can show you in a picture.
Yes,
yeah, this is on this side. Yeah, we can see this is in the second level in the northeast corner, an area which was taken picture by Delver or Giselle Ver in 1995. We see a lot of damages here, yeah, missing Apsara, yeah. But these two Apsaras are still in place,
yes, sir.
But already badly damaged.
Oh.
Yeah. When we came the first time, it looked like this, all gone.
Oh, so this is in 1995?
This is 1995.
And this one is 1965.
1959.
59.
Yeah. So,
wow.
One thing. Second, if we focus on here, you can see this area, and there the light is coming through somewhere. So somehow this part is detached. We asked the permission to do the conservation, but at that time it was not possible to get permission. When we came next time, it looked like this. So this is in
just 1 year, sir.
Less than 1 year.
Less than one year.
Yeah. So also this piece was left. And here you can see what it means, scale formation.
Yes,
so
sir.
this whole face, this whole arm, everything is totally detached. Yeah?
Yes, sir.
I can show you another example where we have been working recently on the first level, Apsaras. You can see the damages, yeah? And you see the breakages and detachment. It's a gap in between, if you look here closely. But the very serious damage is, if you look here, the whole bas-relief is only hanging on tiny little spots. It's totally detached.
But sir, structurally, let's say, why do they detach as layer? Because the stone, they are supposed to be one mass, one single.
This is what I want to explain.
Yes, sir.
So, when the water is penetrating in, the stone expands, and then it's shrinking every day.
Every single
expanding,
day. Yeah.
shrinking, expanding, shrinking from the beginning when it was built. But after some time, due to the distribution of water in the stone, the biggest stress is somewhere behind the relief. There's a big stress, And so due to this stress, the sandstone breaks and crumbles. It's not on the surface, it's in a certain depth, let's say of, in this case, 5 to 7 centimeters. So there is the biggest stress, and there the stone deteriorates due to this
expansion,
shrinkage,
yeah.
expand. The maximum expansion of this stone is at least 4, 5, 6 millimeters per meter of stone.
Oh,
so it's
okay,
measurable. Yeah, it's not only a very tiny little amount. Yeah.
So, sir, if I may, clarify, so the layer of the breakaway part is determined by how much water is absorbed by the stone.
Yes, yeah, and how big is the expansion rate when the water is absorbed,
okay.
and the shrinkage.
Not because they put APSARA as another layer
No,
to the stone.
no. It's one massive stone before when they built. Then there's a second factor after some time,
yes,
when the salt from the beds is arriving in this area, which is already crumbling, then the salts cannot pass to the surface anymore. Yeah, there's a sort of a barrier for transport from inside to outside.
Yes,
and
sir.
these salts, when it's drying, they crystallize, so they enforce the action of the swelling and shrinkage minerals. And for this, we need the analysis of the stone, the clear analysis, detailed analysis. So this is an so-called thin section analysis in the polarizing microscope, where we can identify the different components of the stone.
Yes.
Yeah, the sandstone from Bas-Reliefs would look totally different. Not so many different components, only quartz. Yeah, and this is the scanning electron microscope picture.
Yes, sir.
So here we see a component which is a feldspar. We see a quartz grain, which is the main component, and we see these tiny little elements. You see, there are just 2 microns. 2
micron in
and we
length.
call them clay mineral. And this is the specific mineral for the weathering of the Angkor Wat sandstone.
Yes, sir.
This is the mineral which is expanding and shrinking. This is causing these damages behind the surface, together with the salts from the beds.
But yes, sir, I mean, it can be a bit of a silly question, but why do we need to look so microscopically small in order to understand, the stones, sir, let's say?
If we
what is inside that?
Yeah, if we don't know about the composition of the stone in detail, here we cannot see these tiny little minerals, clay minerals, in the polarizing microscope. That's we have to use the scanning electron microscope to identify these minerals as one of the factors of the damages, of the damaging reactions of the sandstone. Yeah?
Yes, sir.
And this is important to understand what is happening. Why is it not happening in Taprom?
Oh, so the stones are different, basically.
No, they are similar.
They are similar.
They are similar. But here it's exposed and a lot of water. And here the action of the clay minerals cause the damage.
Yes, sir.
In the forest, it's more or less constant climate. Of course, also raining and little changes in humidity, but not so much action in swelling, shrinkage, and especially the salts in this condition there, where it's always very humid. When you go to Taprom, you start sweating. Yeah, it's so humid. Yeah, let's say 70, 80 or up to 90% relative humidity. And there the salts stay in solution. They don't crystallize, dilute, While here, every time they are diluted when it's raining or high relative humidity in the evening, and when it's drying, when the sun is on, they crystallize. So this is always, this we call weathering. These cyclic changes crystallization, dilution, swelling, shrinkage, swelling, shrinking, heating, cooling. This is causing the weathering.
Yes, sir. But just to clarify a bit, for example, the reason why, let's say, the pyramid in Egypt can survive very long is that they are exposed to very dry air for a very long time. So they don't go through the cyclic, phases like you mentioned.
Actually, the main structure of Angkor Wat is also still standing, of course, compared to the pyramids. The pyramids are big blocks. Of course, there's weathering as well, even when it's in dry era. We have been working in temples in Egypt,
yes, sir.
And with also decoration with bas-reliefs. And there we have similar problems. They are not so much. It's also not sandstone, it's limestone. And of course, they are the action different. They don't have these clay minerals. There it's mainly due to the salts. Yeah. And also there we have changing climate also in the evening. It's getting humid, so salts dilute. Yeah. Especially there we have from the bedrock still. It was a sea. Yeah. And in the sea we have sodium chloride. Yes. And there the damaging salts are sodium chloride. Here it's much different. It's nitrites, phosphates and others. So the composition of the salts is of course also very important. But we have also in Egypt, in dry climate, we have damages. We have been working in southwestern Egypt, which is really far desert and really hot in the day. In the night it's going down to 0 nearly. Even in summer, or in spring. In the night, it's more than 40, 45, up to 50 degrees. There we have been working on wall paintings, rock art, painted rock art.
Yes, sir.
And of course, we also had, it's on sandstone, we also had damages there. In this case, also due to damaging salts, for example. Yeah.
But sir, yes, I also read some part of the Angkor Charter on stone restoration, and they also mentioned a lot about salt. So you said about salt crystallization. So the salt eats away, they damage the stone in what way, sir?
Due to crystallization and dilution, this cyclic process.
Yes, sir.
And there's another also mechanisms of the salt which is also damaging. But if we stay with the crystallization, the salts, when they crystallize, they need more space. Specific in corners like this, they grow in between little where the quartz grain meets. And when they crystallize, they need more space and they push away.
Oh, that is what you mean by stone expansion. They expand.
No. Oh. The minerals expand with water.
Okay.
But the crystals from salts, they push away. They need more space and push away the one grain from each other, which is causing damage. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Actually, maybe this is something we are talking with our team. Of course, this is a scientific part. Yeah, you have to know and you have to learn, and it's quite complex. Yeah,
yes, sir.
We are just working on some problems at Preako, where we have very specific salt composition. Yeah, which we didn't have here in Angkor Wat.
Yes, sir.
And we have to analyze and then draw our conclusions out of the analyze. How to treat the salts there. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
What different salts do we have? How is their behavior, and how can we protect the monument?
Yes, sir. But you also use a lot of let's say chemical to restore the stone, sir.
This is then the next step.
The next step. Okay, sir. Yes, sir. Okay.
I told you in former times a lot of cement was used, also acrylic resin.
Yes, sir.
And I told you we have to know really our stone material, the composition, the behavior, the physical parameters, the mechanical parameters, that we can use conservation materials which are very well adapted to the stone, so fit to all these different parameters.
Yes,
As I said, the cement is much stronger, rigid, much higher elasticity modulus than the stone. It doesn't take up water. The stone takes up a lot of water. Yeah, and we have to find materials which have similar water uptake like the stone, which have similar expansion rates like the stone, which have similar physical or mechanical parameters, similar elasticity modulus.
Yes, sir.
That's why we are doing a lot of investigation on the stones in the lab. Yeah.
Yes,
Here you can see Phnom Kolen is totally different from Angkor Wat sandstone. Yeah. On top Kolen sandstone. Yeah.
But they are all sandstone.
They are all sandstones.
But inside the scope, microscopic world, they are a bit
from
different.
the composition,
Yeah.
from their structure, from their physical and mechanical parameters, there are a huge variety. Yeah, and this we have to know, that we can adapt our conservation materials. Yeah, for example, this is much coarser, the components, than this. So for this, you could use a coarser repair mortar than for the Angkor Wat style sandstone, where it must be a fine. Yeah, just one example. Yeah.
Wow.
And it must be, what is the second point, compatible with the sandstone.
Yes, sir.
So I said sometimes it was used acrylic resin. Natural or acrylic resins are not compatible with the sandstone. Their behavior is totally different from the sandstone. So we use as a chemical, which is used for consolidation,
Yes, sir.
for a binder for mortars, etc. We use ethyl silicate. The ethyl silicate is liquid. The molecules are small like water.
Yes, sir.
And they can penetrate into the stone like water. And inside the mortar, the stone, they react and form SeO bonds. So SeO2 is the chemical formula for the main component of the stone, which is quartz. Quartz mineral.
That is why we see a lot of quartz when we excavate some part of the temple. They are like a big quartz.
Yeah, there are gravel from quartz. Yeah, but the sand in there, it's much finer. Yeah,
Yes,
but the main component is quartz. SeO2, the chemical formula, and the consolidant we use, the composition is also SeO2.
Yes, sir.
So this is compatible, and with this we can also use as a binder. You asked also, what about the said mortar? I would say stucco at the brick temples. For this, of course, we don't use as a binder for mortars ethyl silicate. We could use, but it's not very well adapted. We use lime.
Yes,
so normal mortar is made lime and sands. Yeah, here we use ethyl silicate and sands. Well, by the way, the sands we use are from sandstone and from quartz made. Yeah,
Yes,
we break the sandstone and make specific sands, and this is put together with ethyl silicate.
Yes, sir.
And then we have a mortar which can be applied. For example, you can see it here. The joint here, this is artificial sandstone.
This one, sir.
Yeah, normally people wouldn't see that this is not a sandstone. One would think this is a mortar. Huh? Not a mortar, sandstone. Yeah?
So you mean that artificial sandstone is like you make it?
We make sort of an artificial sandstone, which is well adapted in color, in grain size,
Yes, sir.
in the physical behavior, water uptake, expansion rate, mechanical strength, adapted to the quality of the condition of the sandstone. So this is the main philosophy behind conservation and conservation
basically,
science.
if we cannot change the entire stone, at least we can reinforce them in smaller cracks, sir.
Actually, here, this part, in the upper part, nothing is necessary. Yeah. It's even not necessary to clean. You can see here it's badly damaged. So this was consolidated. And then we can see everywhere small tracks of mortar to stabilize the scales or the layers. And then we use the mortar for closing the joints as well with these. It's all the same type of artificial sandstone.
They have very, very similar property.
Similar properties to the stone itself. This is, we test just recently. Sometimes, you know, the materials we use, sometimes they are modified by the factory.
Yes, sir.
So we have to go back, and the team is doing new samples. We test the new samples and adapt again the system to improve the system, that it's better adapted to the area we have to use. You see there, down there, very badly damaged stone parts, and everywhere you can see we think the team is excellent to do this, the very well adapted application of mortars.
You know, because every bas-relief is very different, and like you said, you know, everything is different in terms of composition, you know, the material, the place where the temples are, the stones are. So basically, so in general, I know that every bas-relief and every stone, every monument is very different. So at each restoration, so how much time do you need to restore? And at the same time, you know, how many specialists do you need in order for the work to be smooth, sir?
Okay. Yeah, actually, we have a look at the last work site up there.
Yes, sir.
This was first focusing on APSARA-Reliefs, which was more than half a year work. But then we extended the scaffolding also to reach the big pediments on the other side, and then another year we needed for this. Of course, if we have one APSARA, the time is much shorter than if we have a group, like in the corners of the towers over there, of 10 APSARAs. If we have a small tower, or if we have a huge tower like this.
Yes, sir.
We were working on the towers on the second level now. We are on the third tower we are working. The first one, it took more or less 4 years. But for this, we had to prepare the methodology and the strategy for such huge towers.
Yes, sir.
And now for this tower, it was only 2 years. And we expect the same when we move the scaffolding from here to the north.
So the restoration of this tower from the very top, or from the very bottom to the top, it takes 2 years, sir.
It has taken 2 years from the top to the bottom.
From the top to the bottom.
Yeah, yeah. It took 2 years, but this is due to the experience we have from the other towers. The time becomes shorter.
Because
on the other hand, we have to say we have to keep the scaffolding now for another half a year, even when the conservation is finished.
Yes, sir.
Because the materials need reaction time.
Oh, so you mean the new material needs to adapt to the old one?
Ethyl silicate I was explaining, it has a long time where it has to be protected from rain, especially, and from sun. Otherwise, it will react immediately, and then the result is very, very bad. So more damages than, So we have to keep it like it is now for a longer time. This is also something the team looks after very precisely, and then we can dismantle and move to the next tower. The question down in the Soyavamang gallery is somehow totally different. The bas-reliefs are more or less well preserved. Even we have damages, and our team is doing a monitoring and doing always minor maintenance intervention on small spots.
Yes, sir.
But what we are trying to fix there is the water intrusion from the roof or from the walls. If you're down there, you can see black water runoff, or the black comes from algae growing there.
Yes,
and now we did the first section, and now we extend the scaffolding to. So this we calculate at least 1.5 years, or even 2. It depends on the question if we can find the leakage point very easily, if we have to do little intervention, or if we have to do a lot of large intervention.
So it's very hard to determine an exact time because, for example, one thing is the accessibility. The taller you go, maybe the harder it will restore naturally. So.
Accessibility, of course, is also something very, if we can reach it from the floor, small scaffolding, everything very quick. But up there it's quite difficult to construct a safe scaffolding, and especially here you can see the scaffoldings on the other towers in the outside, they were more than 25 meters high. So this is a lot of material, and of course this needs time to construct, and then it's a huge surface area, such a big tower. And as I explained to you, we don't focus only where we have still decoration. The whole tower, also there where we don't have any decoration anymore, must be conserved.
I see, sir. Yes, sir. So right now we are standing on the lower level from the very top of the tower. And of course, now we are seeing the pediment part of the tower, sir. But, you know, there's no bas-relief, sir. Is it because of it has been decayed or it has not been completed yet, sir, let's say?
Actually, we are convinced it was completed.
Yes, sir.
We are exactly above the level of the galleries of the second enclosure.
Yes,
and there we have this huge pediment. For sure it was carved. We can see still some relics of the carved surface, which is very detailed, but due to weathering it's all gone, more or less all gone. On the other hand, you can also see that we have conserved it like if it would have been a decorated surface. Otherwise, the speed of weathering will increase, so we can reduce the speed of the deterioration even on these areas which are not decorated anymore.
Yes, sir. But how do you restore it, sir? Like, do you apply, new material on top of everything, or do you only apply to certain points, let's say?
Yeah, actually, here for sure it has been cleaned first.
Yes, sir.
A lot of biology must be cleaned. Then it's consolidated with ethyl silicate, which penetrates into the stone, and we reach more or less the outside the same level of strength like the stone, the unweathered stone has inside.
Yes, sir.
Then all joints are closed with mortars. All edges of the scales or the layers you can see are, we call it pointing. The mortar is applied, and at the end a sort of a very liquid mortar, we call it wash, is applied everywhere, and with the foam, it's like with a massage, pushed into the small, very small open spaces, and then the rest is removed again, and this is the appearance. It looks like the original stone. No coverage with what has been done in former times, acrylic resin, which is counterproductive, but it's now stabilized.
Yes, sir.
But of course, it's a patient which is badly damaged, and it needs maintenance, observation, monitoring, and maintenance over the time.
So this part over here, I can say it is more or less restored, sir.
It's conserved. The whole tower now is conserved, and especially also these pediments.
Yes, sir.
Here one point, this we would call restoration. When the gaps are too big,
to be applied.
For mortar, too wide for mortar application, the team puts in new pieces, new stone pieces.
And then they can apply the mortar later in the gap.
It's not necessary. This is to close the gap finally. This is mortar again, but this piece or this one, it's sandstone here, a new sandstone piece. This we would call restoration. This is part of restoration when we add new materials, new stone. But you can see here the gap was very big, and for this the mortars cannot be used. We use, but you can also see the new piece is exactly dressed that it fits into the gap we observe.
So the restorer have to cut the stone very precisely to that exact dimension.
Yeah, to the not in Europe, for example, they just cut when some parts were damaged. They cut out a square hole, and then they put in a new square one. Yeah.
But we don't do it here.
Here we do it totally different, and now also in Europe they start to change the attitude. Yeah.
But this one definitely takes more time, sir.
Of course, this takes much more time.
More time and more
stonemason can do a square thing like this, maybe in 2 hours. Yeah. For this, he has to work much longer, of course. Yeah, because he always has to test if it's fitting or not. Take it out, then chiseling again, and of course, it shouldn't. He shouldn't chisel off too much. Then we have again big gaps. Yeah.
And then we need to add a smaller gap, or maybe just redo the entire thing.
Yeah.
It's very hard to see up close when you're down there.
Yeah, of course.
When when it's basically in front of you, it's a different story. Yeah.
Actually, this is a very important point for our research on the question of the deterioration and the damages on the development. Yeah.
Yes,
so first of all, we have to go out when it's raining. Most people sit in the office when it's raining. Yeah. Second. Of course, outside you also get dirty and it's hot and you're sweating in the office, everything is fine. Yeah? But this is the job of conservation scientists, heritage professionals, especially conservators. The second thing is we want to know how quick it develops. And for this, we needed pictures. Yeah? I showed you one from Gisèle from 1995. This was lucky that we found. And then we could show how quick, in between the some decades, it disappeared quickly. Yeah, but most people, also the old people who came to take photographs, they always focused on the beautiful bas-reliefs, well preserved, because they wanted to show how. We never find something about the damages.
So we don't know exactly when it was damaged and for how long.
We don't know when it was damaged. We can only maybe this. We do it down at the when we stop again. We have another example how we can follow up the development of deterioration.
So if some apsaras are decayed, we cannot know how many apsaras are there in Angkor, sir, for the exact number.
Actually, I'm convinced we can.
Oh.
Because even when they, of course, for example, in a corner of the towers I mentioned, for example, or I showed to you where we have this decayed apsara. Nevertheless, we can see next to it there's still the crown. Then there's another one where maybe part of the hand is still survived. And then from the other side, the same. And then we have inside a corner where we have a single apsaras. So this is the pattern we can compare with other towers. Sometimes these apsaras are still there on the tower in the northeast. They are totally lost. So, but this was also a problem with my colleague when we started. He was photographing the apsaras.
Yes, sir.
And we were counting and making a risk map. Yeah? And our numbers were always different. He always had less apsaras than we had because he didn't take photographs of the disappeared ones. But the disappeared ones have for us the same importance nearly like the existing ones.
So it doesn't have to be a full-size apsara. It can be a finger of an apsara.
Where we can still see there was one.
Okay.
So here we are on the level of the lower bas-reliefs, and below you have the lintel.
Yes, sir, the lintel.
The conserved lintel. Yeah.
Okay.
And of course, here we are lucky that big parts of the bas-relief is still preserved. So we know about this is Ramayana, yeah, and
Because of the monkeys.
because of the monkeys and the god here, Vishnu,
Oh, sitting on Garuda here.
on Garuda, yes.
Garuda, yes.
Yeah. But very often the central figure is missing. Of course, and only normal figures, no monkey. So it's very difficult to decide whether what iconography we have on this relief. Yeah?
Yes, sir. But in this section here, I see that there are restoration, conservation. Is
Yes.
that correct, sir?
Only little, closing the joints. And this is something which I think it's a very successful topic, especially also now around the corner. This one here, for example, you can see we have been working on this pediment already in 2002, something like that. 2002 we had the scaffolding here for the pediment only, yeah, and not the whole tower. And so in 2002 we did the conservation, and this is still very stable. So we nearly didn't have to do here only minor maintenance work, yeah. But the original, from more than 20 years ago, it's still in a very good condition. You can see here.
But sir, how do you know that it is stable? By looking at what factors?
We can test. We have different testing tools. We can do it with a video microscope. We have a tool, it's called drilling resistance. A small drill of 3 millimeters is pressed to the wall and pushed into the wall. And you can imagine when this, we have a writer on top, an XY writer, and when it's drilling in and it's going constantly, we can see that it's stable. If there's a weak surface, the drill goes in quickly.
Yeah, it jumps out.
Out then, yeah. You can, yeah. So there are different possibilities, yeah.
But there is no means that we will replace the broken one. No, we keep them as it is.
This is the philosophy of conservation, yeah. Not to add anything. On the other hand, we don't know what was it, yeah. Most probably monkeys, yeah. But very often now in restoration they copy something, but we are not convinced this should be done in the bas-reliefs, yeah.
At the same time, we also see some algae or moss growing on the stone, and in the Angkor Charter they also mentioned that the moss can also protect the stone because they keep the
different.
Oh, different.
The lichens can protect.
Okay.
Here.
So lichens, this is the lichen. Yeah.
The moss is a bit more difficult because of course. Also, the lichens live from the stone somehow, and from the exchange with air, yeah, and water.
They say the microbiology colonization.
It's a colonization of algae and bacteria, yeah. And in our opinion, they protect more than they damage. The moss, the roots of the moss go into the stone, so they damage by the roots. And secondly, where we have moss, they keep the humidity on this spot longer.
But they are very small, sir.
They are very small as well.
But they can do a lot of work compared to their size.
Algae, the same, yeah.
So it's okay to keep some of them doing their job.
Actually, we are convinced we should not clean the temple where it's not necessary. It's necessary where we have to apply conservation materials, consolidant or mortars.
Yes, sir.
If we have put the mortars on top of the biology will push off the mortar, and then result zero. Yeah. But if there's no need, like here for conservation, yeah, it's very stable. You can touch and you can feel it's no sanding, nothing. We should keep it because we are in a tropical climate, and very quickly the biology will come back. Then you decide, okay, oh, there's now again biology, so we have to clean. And cleaning, growing, cleaning, growing, cleaning, growing is a cyclic process.
Be very expensive.
Not only very expensive and time consuming, but also part of the deterioration process.
Oh,
Because also cleaning can have a negative influence on the stone.
So we cannot clean all the time. We need to be limited in our cleaning.
Actually,
also.
just one example, the Angkor Wat was cleaned in between 1986 and 1993.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I still saw the last intervention, which was the West Gallery. It was totally clean. 3 years later, it was black as well. Now the whole temple is more or less black. Yeah, the roofs and the walls partly, etc.
Yes, sir.
So, and of course, these huge building, you cannot clean every 3 or 5 years. Yeah, first of all, time. Second, then it will become really expensive, and you have to build up scaffoldings a lot. Yeah, you cannot do it just by helicopter spraying or something like that. Yeah, yeah. Then you have to close it for visitors and for prayers as well. Yeah.
I see, sir.
You see, after the cleaning of the 1996 intervention, everything in Angkor Wat was bright like the wall there with the windows. Looks all the same. And especially this gallery, I observed 3 years later it was already dark. And the population now is also different from the population, the biological population, different from the one before.
Yes, sir.
If you go to Bayonne, you have much more lichens than we have here. Lichens are very sensitive against cleaning action chemicals, and even when the pollution in the air would grow, lichens suffer from the pollution. Here we don't have a problem with it.
So you have to be, you have to know a lot about plants also, in order to conserve them, to save them. Yes, sir.
Actually, that's why we say we are the only really scientifically based conservation project, because the first approach was for, let's say, the first 3 years, we prepared the project with scientific methods, and only then we started with application of conservation interventions.
Yes, sir.
But step by step, we trained the team. In between, you saw the casts to protect emergency consolidation, and of course, another point, we started with the APSARA, even when we saw big damages on the pediments, But at the beginning, we only had little infrastructure, no scaffoldings, but these could be reached. And time by time, we got scaffolding, more scaffolding, so we could go up to the pediments, 2002, And since 2016, we have enough scaffolding to put around the whole towers. And of course, it must be safe. Maybe you have seen on the other side,
yes, sir,
only little floors, some. But our team has to work precisely. They cannot check if they can go a step backwards or not. They must be safe on a solid floor. And this is what I was talking, security,
yes,
of
sir,
course.
But how about the inscriptions, sir? Like the inscription written on the wall, or maybe the inscription still, that, the monolithic. Do you restore the inscription the same way you restore the bas-reliefs, sir?
Yeah.
The same way?
Yeah. Actually, we had a longer project at Prasat Kravan, where we did the conservation of the lintels. We did research inside on the polychromy, on the paints, inside on the bas-reliefs. And we did an investigation on the very important inscriptions. In that time, together with Professor Thomas Maxwell from IIS, Angkor Inscription Survey. And there we did a lot of tests how we can clean these very, very delicate and sensitive and highly endangered inscription. And then after long testing with different chemicals, we applied the cleaning.
Yes, sir.
And we stabilized the door jambs, on the inscription. Sometimes, if it's really weathered, we have to apply some consolidation as well. But this was a nice story also to show how the tourists behave. I made what is it? The contrary of slow motion is time where everything is going very quickly. Time-lapse movie. And I could show how the tourists go in, go out. They have umbrellas, scratching the door frames. They have their backpack. Some want to go out, the other. So they are pushing each other, and even inside, it's too crowded. They scratch at the back when they have to go back at the Bas-Reliefs, etc. And I proposed at that time to close totally and to put a huge panel for the central tower to see what's inside, and to put a solar panel on top, cables, small, tiny cables down, nice LED lights inside, so if the people pass outside, they nevertheless, when it's a little bit illuminated inside, can see the bas-relief. But now, at least it's closed and the inscriptions are protected. But there are many problems with the inscription. We just have been for the ICC in Preavihir and Kokere, and Kokere has a lot of endangered inscriptions. This is a big problem still.
So like you mentioned, the tip of the umbrella and the backpack can over time
they scratch and they destroy. Of course. They are in any case very fragile.
I see. So, okay.
Here is again, we have the same 2002, the repair mortars. And still well connected to the stone, very stable.
So we may go to the APSARA.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
But for us, it was important to see this cast is not very good, but we can see that everything is still in place. No damages. Here we can see more or less everything is in place, only some damages here. At the time, let's say 1880.
Yes, sir. 1880.
140 years ago.
Yes, sir.
More or less, 150 years ago. Well-preserved pediment. And this as well, on first level, on second level tower. And if we look to the photos we did, already in 1999, this is on the first tower, level tower, well preserved. And on the second level tower, big parts are lost.
But sir, we don't know where they went, right?
They just fall down.
And then they become,
it's mainly sanding, scaling, which is causing the damage, what I explained, the detachment. And then it falls down. And if nobody cares, of course, at that time, there was no maintenance. There were no people looking after something.
So they fall down very, very slowly every day, and it is very hard to...
No, it can be that such a huge piece falls down in one. Like the one I showed to you.
Yes, sir.
No. Where was it? It was at the beginning. This part for sure came off in once. Plop. So not only small pieces, now it's what we call flaking and sanding, and then now small pieces fall continuously, if we don't do a conservation. But here, for sure, it's also big pieces in ones who come off. Yeah, but the next information we need is how is the condition really there. Yeah. Now we only have the pictures and we can see a lot of missing parts. Here we can see totally complete. But if we do what we then do is the next step, a mapping of what we call damages. Yeah? We can even see here, the red one is scaling. So these areas are highly endangered also to fall off. You understand?
Yeah, yes, sir.
And here we can see all was yellow, was missing already. There it's flaking. Yeah, this is what I showed in the last picture. But also the other pieces which are still in place are totally detached and highly endangered to fall off. So both here, there, we decided it's really urgent to do an intervention. So we put scaffolding here, but also here. Yeah. Of course, here it would be really sad if we would have lost some of the complete relief.
So even on the same pediment,
yeah,
the restoration is very different also because there are different parts that fall down in different places. So specific treatment will be put on specific area. Yeah. Up to the millimeter, let's say. Up to the
millimeter. It's the work the team is doing. It's with tiny little instruments, small spatulas, syringes and things like that for this huge temple. Yeah, no big tools, no big chisels, no big. Yeah, so this is a bit like Sisyphus. Yeah, but nevertheless very successful, as you can see here. But what I wanted to show, only the picture does not give reliable information. You have to go and check and investigate and do mapping, then you can see that even on a complete relief, parts are highly endangered.
And you cannot bring this to the lab. You have to bring the lab to...
You have to bring the lab to some work we are doing in the lab, but a lot of work on research and investigations we also have to do at the site, and mainly non-invasive,
Non-invasive.
So for these, the conservation is finished and now it's stable, but next time when we get the permission, I'm going around with a drone, taking pictures, look about the condition and do a monitoring.
Yes, sir. So if we are not careful, everything can fall off, maybe?
In many areas, things can fall off, This problem we don't have in the temples in the forest. We don't have it all, There, the more or less, the walls are very, very stable and the decoration on the walls.
Yes, so I want to ask that question also. So let's say the bas-relief in Gulen Mountain, where let's say the lichen or the plants, they cover, the bas-relief very, very, thickly. And also like the lingam that is under the water, they don't show a lot of deterioration. Is that correct, sir?
This is correct. But first of all, some of the stone materials are different from this one. And specific, the bas-reliefs on the bedrock.
Yes, sir.
This is a very, very special case. Rock art preservation is very, very, very sensitive. We have a lot in Koker at the Rahal. This is a very, very specific task. But due to that we have a more or less constant condition, no changing conditions. Water is always the same humidity, so they are more or less protected.
Of course, the running water does not, let's say, chip away the stone. Not so much.
No. It can cause damaging when a big flood is coming, and this big flood is bringing sands and boulders, and the sand and the boulders or the gravel can damage somehow.
But in normal condition,
but you cannot in normal condition now, and you don't have a chance to protect it. In the Kabelspirn, how to protect the bas-reliefs, the lingas in the water.
It's very hard to do then. You need to put
No.
a dam or something to stop the water, but it's not.
But then it's not
Yeah.
the you know, you have to keep the spiritual, the religious aspect of the whole thing. Yeah. If you remove the water,
It's not-
sometimes in dry season it happens. Yeah. But this is natural. But if you do it artificially, then you destroy the intention of these bas-reliefs in the water. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I only wanted now, as we here at the level of the APSARAs, some picture of the condition before. So this is this corner here. And you can see all detached, yeah? It's extremely fragile, yeah? The water washed out, yeah, already. And a lot of cracks and flaking, sanding. Here we can also see the whitish are damaging salts, yeah? Here the same, but from front, yeah? Totally separated the whole relief by cracks and joints. So it's extremely, look at this here. Yeah. You understand? This is the body of the APSARA around the corner. Very fragile scale. And then on top, the scale is all thin scale already missing. It's flaking, sanding. So if you don't do it, it will not survive at least the next 1 or 2 years.
Yes, sir. But do you think the APSARA on the upper part, receive the damage differently from the APSARA on the lower part? Because people on the lower part can touch them, but at the upper part, people cannot touch the APSARA. So do you see the difference in
Actually, this is not due to the people.
Oh,
yeah.
not due to the people.
Of course, the people should not touch.
Yeah.
Because if everybody is touching, you get all the
salt.
materials from the skin, the salt, the sweating, the mosquito repellent, and the sun cream. Everything will be on the APSARAs. The APSARAs don't need sun cream; they are protected without sun cream. No, it's dependent on the situation. It's dependent specific here in this case. On this level, the APSARite on the outside, yeah, on all 4 corner towers are in the worst condition of all. And this we think is due to the fact that what I said upstairs, that the corner towers on the 2nd level were not finished. But nevertheless, a lot of beds inside, a lot bed deposits inside. We know from Central Tower that there was several meters of bed deposits when the French came, and for sure here as well, yeah. And then we had a lot of rain coming in due to the fact that it was not closed. So we think this is mainly, of course, this mechanism of scale formation, yeah. This starts immediately when it's built and exposed to the weather. But here it's specific the effect from the bed,
from the
damaging
waste,
salt,
the waste of the bed,
from the salts out of the waste of the beds. Yeah, this we have in all 4 levels. And Mr. Post told me we have concluded the work on the northwest tower in 2018, and now already some maintenance has to be done on the bas-reliefs outside again. Yeah? And here again, this is now the 3rd time we have been working on these APSARAs since 2000. 3 times already.
Why? So because it keeps breaking down?
It keeps going, the damages, and of course, the high content damaging salts we cannot remove. It's impossible to remove the salts. I did some, at the beginning, some tests on the northwest tower, northeast tower. In some places we have 20% of salts in the stone. So 20% of the stone in the pores is salt. And it's through the whole 1.5 meters thick wall. So when we remove some salt outside, salts will continue. They will move, they will move. This is also the philosophy behind restoration, conservation, heritage protection. We can never stop the decay. Impossible. We see it on the big mountains. Yeah, the Himalaya at one point will be smaller, smaller, smaller again. Yeah? Yeah. The Alps were much higher, and they are now smaller. We have mountains in Germany. In 400 million years ago, there were maybe more than 1,000 meters. Now they are 500 meters high only. Yeah? So this is natural. This is weathering. And also our artificial mountains, yes, they are constantly decaying. And our work is to reduce the speed, to reduce the dynamics of the decay.
Yes, sir. So can you give us like a small description on how you particularly restore this, let's say, group of apsaras, sir?
Actually, in this case, Mr. Sapos would be the better one. Yeah, actually, the first thing is we do a mapping, a deterioration mapping, what I showed to you before on the pediments. Yeah,
like a preliminary study, something like that, sir.
No, this is the documentation of the state of preservation. The documentation of the condition at the time we starting the project. And this is the base for the further maintenance or monitoring and maintenance.
Yes, sir.
If we don't know at a certain point how was the condition, later we cannot say, oh, this became worse or better. Yeah? So we need something which we can compare.
Like a timeline, sir.
Like a timeline, yeah. Then the team is doing some tests. Then, if necessary, the team is doing very carefully cleaning, mainly with toothbrushes or small brushes, as far as possible dry, but in many cases it's only possible doing it with wet. Then they put on highly endangered areas with high salt content. Very often we take samples, do an analysis in the lab in Cologne on the content of salts, and then, for example, like at Briaco on the door frames, and then we know about the composition of the salts, and then we know how to remove at least part in the surface near zone of the bas-relief, how to remove with poultice. Poultice means we mix very specific clay earth and cellulose fibers in a specific ratio with water and apply it for a certain time. And then we can do a test on the poultice when we remove it, if it's also some salts in the poultice. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
We can do tests on the sandstone if we were able to remove some. And then the team starts with fixing the bigger scales with pins. I cannot see.
Like a physical pin, sir?
Like a physical pin, like with fiberglass dowels. You can see it where we have the small spots.
Oh.
Yeah. There the scale was fixed. As I said, the philosophy is the mortars we use are adapted to the sandstone, but from the strength they should be weaker than the sandstone itself, a little bit weaker. In case the damage or the decay continues, first the mortar should decay and then the sandstone. If we use cement, the sandstone decays, but the cement remains. Yeah? So this is the wrong way. And that's why we have to fix heavy big scales with mechanical pins. So then the next step is to do the pointing all around the damaged area, close all cracks, close the joints. Yeah? The aim is that no water is penetrating, or most of the water is running off. Nevertheless, when it's raining, the stone is soaking. But if we have open areas, especially areas where the scale is open, then the water can run in behind, and then additionally water penetrates and affects the stone. So this is the next step. When this is finished in the pointings around the scales, they insert small plastic tubes. And through these tubes, later again a liquid mortar, based on ethyl silicate again, is injected with syringes to the back to fill the area, the detached area, the crumbling area behind the scale.
So if I can see like a small drill hole here, maybe, sir?
This is fixed. This is for fixing. Actually, sorry, have to get up. It's easier to show here.
Yes, sir.
For example, this is a scale. If you knock, when it's untreated, it sounds hollow.
Oh, okay.
Yeah?
Sir.
So here they did the whole pointing. They had the small tubes inside, and they injected a lot of liquid mortar behind this scale. The same here.
You use your knuckle to
for
feel
example,
the stone.
we have another tool as well, a more technical tool, but also we can do it with
your own hand,
with the fingers, And before, really, this whole area sounded very hollow, and now it's injected, and inside the scale, the ethyl silicate mortar reacts and fills the gap and consolidates as well the crumbling area behind.
So some conservation work are deep inside the stone, so that some people cannot see it.
It's not visible.
It's not visible.
And then finally, for example, here on this area, this specific liquid wash is applied and pushed in and then removed at a certain level.
But for example, this one, the Apsara here, is almost completely gone.
There were two Apsara. Yeah? You can see one hairdress, one face, and in the corner a second one. Because this is the foot of the right Apsara.
Oh, okay.
And this is the arm of the left Apsara. So this is how we can see how many Apsaras.
But we never know, we will never know their face because it's gone.
Gone. Maybe since long time. Yeah. It was already gone in 1995. We have the documentation of the Apsaras from 1995, so we can see this was already gone. Yeah. Or here on this side as well. Yeah. Also, most probably two. No, only one. Here, only one. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So this is more or less the process. And of course, it's different from the restoration. You see something is dismantled and then rebuilt and new pieces added, and then it's complete and everybody can see. Yeah. For conservators, it's more important that nobody can see what has been done. Nevertheless, everything is stable after the intervention.
And yes, sir, because like you said, the conservation work will not 100%, protect everything on the wall. So maybe just a prediction for the future, sir. If everything will one day fall down, how do we preserve this image, sir, so that, let's say, generations to come will be able to see? Maybe, like you said, a plaster replica or maybe a 3D model or something. What is the prediction of the scientists, let's say, sir?
It's difficult to say. Actually, this is now the actual state is for 100% preserved. But as the weathering process will continue, of course, the main task for conservators is to regularly monitor, maintain, and when small damages occur again, do a minor intervention. This is how we try to make the life longer for the decoration. On the other hand, of course, we cannot keep it forever. No. Of course, we do a documentation so it's visible, or this hopefully the archive will survive longer than the monument itself, which is crucial. We can do 3D modeling, of course, photograph in general, of course, but also 3D monitoring or modeling. Nowadays you have easy possibility. You can do 3D model with the iPhone already. In former time it was much more difficult. For example, in the Bas-Relief gallery here, this is for monitoring mainly we do 3D laser scanning. So we have models of the galleries inside and showing also naturally of course the bas-reliefs and the quality of the bas-reliefs, etc. But on the other hand, it's always the question if the digital archives survive for a long time.
Maybe they won't survive as long as the stone. We cannot say.
I'm convinced the temple and the stone and the apsaras and the pediments in the state of preservation now will last much longer than our documentation, digital documentation. We know from the beginning we did a full survey of all apsaras and full photographic survey, but after some years we nearly couldn't read the CDs. At that time we were told CDs, they are forever.
No, they're not forever.
Yes.
The magnetic property will deviate over time. So what is the digital system which is surviving longer than the temple itself? Of course we have for example, in the museums in Europe, Paris, we have the copies of the bas-reliefs. And also I know from Berlin, in the museum, there are parts of the copies of the bas-reliefs. So these are more substantial, and as long as the museums survive, also these will kept, and give an example. But for the whole temple here and for all the bas-reliefs and all the decoration, I think it's also nearly impossible to make, first of all, copies, cast copies, or 3D modeling. In the bas-reliefs, we did in the Suryavarman gallery, but Japanese colleague did a lot, also 3D modeling in other, but they are all in a digital format. And for this we need the maintenance. We need to update them
and update them, copy to one. Actually, the Americans landed once on the moon.
Yes, sir.
But the data from that time is not readable anymore. So also cannot be reconstructed to be used maybe for the next approach. But now, of course, we have different methods, etc., which are more advanced than it was at that time.
In the 1990s, we were using VHS, but now there's no VHS player.
No VHS player anymore, and soon also the CD will disappear, and the small music, drives, etc. So this is for sure one of the biggest question. We in Germany, different groups are discussing how can we take care of our documentations, especially the digital documentations. Actually, we have a good example in Cologne. Cologne Cathedral was built in 12th century, started now in 13th century, for the huge towers, 158 meters high, there was a plan made by these people at that time, drawing on not on paper, but on cow skin, and it's on parchment, and it's still in the cathedral hanging.
Cow skin?
On parchment.
Oh, parchment.
Parchment, This analog document is still alive now, nearly 1,000 years old.
Wow.
And you might know Cologne Cathedral was never finished in Middle Age. there was a break of several hundred years. And in 19th century, they started to conclude the work on the cathedral. So one of the towers didn't exist in 1500. When they restarted the work in 19th century, 1848, they restarted. They had this plan from the Middle Age, and they could construct the tower as it was planned in 500 years ago. So the analog document survived. I'm not convinced that our digital documents will survive such a long time.
So we need to be careful about the approach that we
But we have to take care about our documentations, of course. In our project still, all the documents, the mappings especially, are not only on CD, but also pictures from the APSARAs, but are also printed on paper. Of course, this is also not really sustainable over hundreds of years, but better than a digital format only, which can, we discussed already, collapse very soon.
And it also depends on the readability of the document. For example, in the next 400 years, let's say, people might not read what we wrote today. The grammar has changed.
This is another question, But for this you need scientists, The scientists who now are reading the inscriptions in Angkor, there's also different writing and understanding and meaning.
But they can decipher,
They have to study, do research on it and come to a certain conclusion,
I see.
This is right, But picture maybe also in 500 years people will understand still, and they can go with the picture. This is here, this was the condition, like we do with the cast from De La Porte from 150 years ago.
Yes, sir. Or maybe the last question for the interview today, sir. You said, the knowledge have to be transferred from, let's say international expert to the local expert, as they need to maintain their own ancestral legacies. So over the past 30 years, because I heard from Mr. Longnari that you also have like training for the student, where they train for like 1 or 2 years on restoration, I think. So how has that, been contributing to the local experts?
Actually, this is for sure that at one point, the local people have to take care by themselves. The foreigners can come for a certain time and then they disappear. And a project is only successful when it was able to train people, Cambodian conservators, and hand over the responsibility also to the Cambodian team. You mentioned Longnari. He was one of our first trainees, before we handed over to APSARA. And Mr. Hosavin was the second one. Mr. Peng was the third one, but he passed away, unfortunately, already. And we started with training from the beginning, and engaged step by step more and more Cambodian people. And of course, some receive a more detailed training, like the site managers. They have to manage everything. They have to understand the whole problem of deterioration, the process of conservation, the research techniques, and have to manage it, while the other team have to do the work at the site mainly. But also one specialist constructing these scaffoldings. He is the man who is organizing, and the team then built the scaffolding. So at one point, of course, the team has to be responsible for the conservation of the temple. I'm old, I cannot come forever, of course.
Yes, sir.
And we are convinced, as long as the team is very well embedded in the national authority, APSARA, they will be able to do the work constantly, what they learned. Not only the conservation, but also what for me is one of the main part of the heritage preservation is monitoring and maintenance. Yeah, in German we have a different word. It's not doesn't say archaeology like here. It says heritage maintenance. This is a program that you have to maintain. Yeah, you understand? And I'm convinced they are able, and we saw it already during the pandemic. Of course, they were more or less self-dependent here. Of course, we had some interaction, some connection through internet, email, etc. But the main thing they were doing by themselves, planning, etc. It was the Northeast Tower. Yeah. And I was really astonished. For the first tower, we needed 4 years. And during the pandemic, they were working so good and constantly, it was already finished after 2 years. Yeah. So, of course, this is necessary, and that the team is well integrated in the national authority, and that it's also acknowledged by the authority that they have this very specific work to do, and this very specific approach. Yeah, they learned. Yeah, and
it's a very
I'm convinced if I go tomorrow, they will be able to do it. Yeah. Main thing beside this is, of course, that they need materials. This means the project always needs money. Up to now, most of the money comes from Germany, yeah, from the German government. We have a called Cultural Preservation Program, which is sponsoring the project since 1997. But the crucial thing is that some of the materials are not available in Cambodia, not on the local and regional markets.
Yes, sir.
You have to purchase them in Europe, especially in Germany. What I said, the ethyl silicate. And this has to be established through the authority, that always the material is in stock. It's really urgent that the team can react immediately. If there's an urgency, they must react urgently. For this, they need the materials. They cannot say, oh, I make a proposal and maybe in 2 years I get the money and then I can...
The APSARA is already fallen down.
APSARA said, Lihai. Yeah. Yeah, you understand, yeah. So, but I'm convinced we are in a very good way. Yeah, we have a very close cooperation with the directors of the DCMA in APSARA, and most probably, I don't know if we will meet now again or still this week for discussions. So I think the team is well received, and they are able to continue with the work.
Yes, sir. But for now, you still continue on the let's say conservation of this work.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Continuously. Actually, we have been now in the whole time working on around 25 temples. Yeah, we are teaching at COCARE as well, training COCARE staff. We give advices in COCARE and in Bas-Reliefs. So. And I also don't see only Angkor or separate. This is something different. No, it's your common heritage. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
All together, all temples. Yeah. And for this, of course, there's a good exchange also of our team with the staff in the conservators in COCARE. Yeah. So this is what I think, and of course, we also need the exchange with the international teams here.
Yes, sir. So yes, Professor Hans, you have been working for, let's say, around 3 decades now in the Angkor region. But I just want to ask you, because it has been a very long time for you, to see heritage, to restore heritage. And I also heard that, you also used to work on, the heritage in Egypt, one of the biggest and also a very long, old civilization on Earth, sir. So, for Angkor, since you were young, when was the first time you hear about the word Angkor Wat, or maybe the image of Angkor Wat to you, sir?
Actually, I don't know. really. But maybe this was in the 60s or 70s. There was report about Angkor in the National Geographic magazine.
Yes, sir.
And there I saw the pictures and thought this should be a place where I should go once in my life. But of course at that time it was more the idea of a visit, like a tourist to see it, like we have been in South America or in other places. I didn't think about a work there, especially at that time. I was, far as I remember, I was still studying. I did my PhD, and I did my PhD in South Africa. It was still pure geology, so I was not thinking about heritage preservation. But the pictures were extreme input, especially, of course, Tapram with the trees, but also the huge Angkor Wat temple, and. Then it was in 1995 or 1994, a colleague of my from my university approached me.
Yes, sir.
He was teaching physics and optics, and he was also a photographer. And he had the idea to do the photographic documentation of the bas-reliefs with a specific camera, Yaro Ponca. And so 1995 we came together.
Yes, sir.
And he did the work there, and I started to survey, to learn about what is Angkor Wat.
So the first time you came to Angkor was 1995?
1995 in spring, And of course one of the tasks was in this cooperation with my colleague also to look on the condition of the bas-reliefs, and if special the photographs he was making were able or were good for the documentation in heritage preservation, etc. But of course I was long time in the bas-reliefs gallery with them, but I observed also, had a look all around, and there I saw these strange damages, and for me it looked very familiar, because we had projects in Germany on churches, castles, etc., where we had similar damages. So the picture of scaling was very similar, and from this point I was so interested that I said, of course, let's start a project. I didn't think about to have a very long-lasting conservation project, but to have a research project on the materials and on the decay phenomena in Angkor. And this was, I started a survey in Angkor as well, and I recognized, of course, the monasteries in the forest are different. I saw Bantasrey, and there was really flashed about the condition, the wonderful condition of the carvings, and this very, very good state of preservation. So this was the beginning to think about what is the reason. And I took first small samples at that time and did the insection analysis on the microscope. And recognized, this stone material is very similar to the one in Germany, where we have also the scaling. So what is the difference? And it came out, even we as a geologist cannot really see whether this piece is coming from Angkor Wat or from one of the churches. This stone material is so identically, also in its whole behavior. Of course. So we continued with the study here, and the decision was to stay in Angkor Wat because we have the bad damaged bas-reliefs, especially on the APSARA. And
yes, sir.
we're thinking, what else can we do? And then we started to think about a proposal for a project of conservation, of protection.
So you take your expertise in preservation, restoration in Germany, and then you apply on Angkor because the material, they are more or less similar, sir?
Yeah, actually, yes. At that time, I was working in the German, the Bavarian Heritage Office. So we were responsible for the heritage in the part of Germany which is called Bavaria. Yeah?
Yes, sir.
And there we did a lot of research. We had a research program over at least nearly 10 years. Where we surveyed all the objects in whole Germany. This was over the borders of Bavaria. And so we had a long and big experience on the weathering processes on monuments, on sandstone monuments.
Yes,
and of course also we did specific conservation projects in Germany as well, starting from zero to develop a project. What is the best way to preserve? Also to develop materials, to adapt materials, to modify materials. And with this knowledge I came here, yeah. But I didn't think we have to copy what we are doing in Germany one-to-one here. We have different climate, we have different influences of weathering. We have the beds, of course. In Germany we have a lot of tuffs, yeah, with bed deposits. We have a lot of pollution in the cities, so this is different. In winter we have frost, yeah. We have no frost here, of course, but we have much more rain in the specific season, etc. So the climatic conditions are also not comparable. Therefore you cannot copy one-to-one from here to there. That's why we did a lot of investigations first here before we started with any development of conservation. And of course we had a certain knowledge what materials we can use, what materials for the conservation we should use, following our philosophy. But we tried to develop it here from the scratch as well and modify as far as necessary.
Yes, sir. About a year ago, my supervisor interviewed Professor Munir Bushnaki, and he remarked on one, let's say a philosophical idea. He said the stones are speaking. So you as an expert, working on the stone, very, very precisely, very in detail. How do you interpret his ideas? Like, what do you mean when he says the stone are speaking? Of course, I mean, they don't literally speak, but you maybe you understand them, you feel them, you feel them, they're
Actually,
aging.
Sometimes we listen to them really. You have seen we knock. So this is a sort of speaking of the stone, yeah, of the damage. Sometimes we had a stethoscope. In former times we tried if this is helpful to analyze the damages. Actually, first of all, I think it's necessary that the specialization we have first in geology to know about the stones and to learn from what we can see, and second in conservation. Yeah, the stone is not speaking itself. We have to look and see what the stone wants to say to us. And the first thing is, of course, how it looks like. And as a geologist, we can separate already by looking at it and having specific research technique like thin section analysis, microscopic thin section analysis, scanning electron, etc. I explained before. This is what the stone is saying us from its material. Yeah, we have to analyze it. Yeah, and this is something we learned by heart during our study as geologists, of course, to understand what is the material, what is its behavior, etc.
Yes, sir.
And then we have to listen also to the bas-reliefs and learn from the condition and what we can see and what we can get from our research, that we can really develop applied methods for the conservation and adapted and well tailored materials for the conservation. Yeah.
Yes,
So we have to listen,
Listen to
look
them.
and listen. Yeah.
We ask them by knocking, by studying them, and then
we have to study them in
listen.
detail. Yeah, and actually in Europe, a lot of geologists, and this is one point I wanted to mention. A lot of geologists or geoscientists are in the field of heritage preservation, beside the other disciplines: chemists, material scientists, engineer, architects, archaeologists, etc. And this is for me the most advantage of this part. What we are doing, that we have the possibility of this interdisciplinary approaches, interdisciplinary work. Yeah.
Yes.
If some of these fields are missing, it's not complete, and it will not get the best results, at least. Yeah. The material scientists, they know, we learn from them. Yeah. As a conservation scientist, how to test in specific parameters. Yeah, the chemists said us, what is the specificity of the chemical we are using? How can we use it? What must be the condition when we apply ethyl silicate, etc. Yeah, the chemist knows much better the behavior of these materials. Yeah,
yes,
and so this is necessary that we have this interdisciplinary work together. And one more point, I think it was last year, we met the responsible persons in the ITC, the geologists or geotechnologists, Mr. Changdun, and we had a very nice exchange, and we met them now again because they are now doing some research on the underground at Preah Temple. So I hope that they also will come to Angkor, and they will be the next future of us scientists, geologists, scientists, and become also, together with the team, conservation scientists. Yeah, they are really urgent as well to support the archaeologists, in detail, the architects, specific on the material of the building, the stone.
Yes, sir. The very last question also, Mr. Professor Munir Bushnaki, he said, Angkor is a place to... No, sorry, not him, I'm sorry. Mr. Professor Bas-Reliefs.
Yes.
Yeah. He said Angkor, in French, of course, he said Angkor is a place to visit and revisit. So not just, you come for one time and then, okay, you understand everything about Angkor and then you should not come again. So from your perspective, sir, do you think that Angkor is a place that you should come again and again because there's so many things to learn from? The culture, the tradition, and especially the scientific side of Angkor, let's say?
Actually, I don't know. Actually, I did.
You did come many times, but yeah.
And it was clear after my first visit that it was very clear that I have to come back. Not only to continue research, but also to learn from about the temples, to learn from the temples, to learn from the people. Yeah. Of course, at that time we didn't meet yet. Yeah, we only met later. But from the beginning, 1997, with our first trainees, we had a real exchange. They knew a lot about the temples, which we still had to learn. Yeah. So, of course, this is clear. From one visit, you cannot learn
get
enough.
The whole of Angkor.
No, cannot get at least. And we know from most of the visitors who stay 3 days, they have 1, 2, 3 temples and finish. So, even now, from time to time, we discover new information, new pictures, new bas-reliefs, which are astonishing. And of course, we are not trained in iconography or art history, etc. So we had a long cooperation with with iconographists, art historians. Professor Thomas Maxwell was teaching his whole career in Germany Indian art history, and then moved to Cambodia after he retired and studied Angkor and inscription of Angkor. And so we had a regular exchange, and we learned from him and he learned from us. So this is what we call interdisciplinary. Yeah?
Yes, sir.
Vittorio Roveda is the one who made the books about iconography and art history in Angkor, and yeah, from them we learned a lot. And but nevertheless, we are not art historians, still not art historians. We mainly focus on our field, the preservation of the monuments, and we are still doing a lot of research from time to time. Also now for Coquer, the materials are different. Breavir, the materials are different. I initiated, I'm an ad hoc expert for NAPV, also that the geoscientists, geotechnologists from ITC should once go there and make a survey about the bedrock, about the tectonic structures, etc., which I feel, I saw it immediately, everywhere, faults and cracks and fractures, huge faults. But you have to do a detailed survey, and now they did, and now we increase the knowledge there as well. So this is wonderful to see.
So that is the, let's say, the general meaning of visit and revisit, so because there's so much to learn.
Yeah. Actually, once I had a colleague from my university was teaching in panel painting and canvas painting, conservation, and he once visited us. He was on a group tour, and they mainly visited Thailand, and he had the possibility to escape to visit us. Yeah, this was the only reason, because we are working here. He said, "I want to see you." And he was flashed when he saw everything, and he said, "Oh, the journey is totally the wrong way. We should stay one day in Thailand and the rest in Cambodia, in Angkor." Yeah? There's so much to see and so much to learn, and of course it's necessary to come and if you learn. Normal tourists should stay at least longer than 3 days, that they have the possibility to go more in detail. Yeah.
Yes, sir.